A lot of people say that we get taxed over 50% in Canada for our income taxes. For us to understand that, we first need to know what is the marginal tax rate, what is the average tax rate, and what do these tax brackets actually mean. Okay, in this video, I'm going to quickly explain to you what is the federal income tax rate for 2026 and what it means under these 5 brackets. So to get started here, under the CRA website, you can find the 2026 rates on their website, and you can see how each percentage as you go down the bracket gets higher and higher as the amounts go up. Okay, so it says here for 14%, you get taxed on the first 58,523 or less. Plus, if you've earned any amount over 58,523 to $117,445, you get 20.5% to go, and then from there you go 26% from 117,000 to 181, and from here you can see it works as a bracket, so as a margin. So as you can see, it gets higher the more income you earn. All right, but every dollar up until this bracket gets taxed at this rate. So what does that mean? That means that if you get taxed at if you've made $58,523, all 58,523 will be taxed at 14%. But what happens if you make $58,524? Does that mean we get taxed at 20.5% for the full 58,524? No, that one extra dollar will be taxed at 20.5%. And that's what we mean when we say marginal. Okay, so we have to look at every dollar individually that's made. Okay, so if you make 258,482, you're not getting taxed the full 33% on this amount. Okay, it is going to go through the margin, through the brackets each like this. Okay, which means that your tax rate on $1 for your federal amount, so this is your federal amount, this doesn't take into account your provincial. You'll also have it a provincial amount based on the province that you're in, which of course will skew these numbers to be higher. So you're going in total, it'll hit that 50% if you're on that lower bracket, but you won't be taxed on an average rate of 50%. Only that marginal amount, each dollar made over a certain X dollar. Let's say you make $1 million, that $1 that you make in a million will be taxed, say, at 50%. Okay, but everything else, when you're going from 58, 117 to 181, 181 to 258, those amounts will be taxed under these brackets. Okay, which of course you still have your provincial amount, which we haven't talked about. We're only going to look at the federal as a means to figure out how does the system actually work in place. The reasoning around this is fairness, so that the lower your net income is, the lower you make, the lower the tax rate that you have. So the higher income you have under these amounts, the higher tax rate you'll have, but only for those specific differences that are made between 58,000 and 117, for example, here. But for you to fully understand how this works, we need to have some examples. So we're going to look at 4 different examples here. You have the federal example. If you make 50,000 in taxable income, 93,500 in taxable income, 143,000 in taxable income, and 350,000 in taxable income. Remember though, these rates seem low. This is because you only have the federal amount. We're not looking at the provincial amount when we calculate these net tax payable. So going through the first one, you have 50,000. So what happens here? You look at the tax bracket here. On the portion of taxable income that is 58,000 or less, so 50,000 is less than 58,523, we get taxed on the full 14%. We have a federal tax payable of 7,000. Now we go to the next one. So 93,500, okay? We can see 93,500 is higher than 58,523, but lower than 117,045. So we're going to get taxed on 14% on the first 58,523. And then we have to see what is the difference of 93,500 and 58,523 to get taxed on the remaining balance of 20.5%. So you see you'll have 8,193.22 to be taxed on the first bracket. And then we take the difference between the 93,500 and 58,523 and tax it at 20.5%, which gets you 7,170.29. You add both up and you get 15,363.51 on 93,500 federally. Okay, we're also going to look at the provincial amount as well, but this is for your federal amount for now. Now, for 143,000, we have to again go through it and we have to look, where does that 143 land? It lands in the third bracket. So again, we'll start with 14% at this 58,523. Then we'll have to take the difference between 117,045 and 58,523 times it by 20.5%. And then go 143 minus this 117. So you can see how we're slowly going down through this bracket. Every bracket will have to be calculated in total, and then you'll add each of the brackets individually. So 8,000 for the first one, 11,997 for the second one, and then the 6,748 for the third one to get a total of $26,938. And then we do the last one, the 350. We can see it's above 350,000, so we're going to have to go through every single bracket here and then calculate the difference between 350 minus 258 and 482. When you go through this calculation, you can see, again, these numbers are all the same because that's the maximum of the bracket. Then we do the maximum for the third and the fourth bracket, and then we add the difference here at 33%, and we get $89,476.05 federally, okay, on the 350,000. If we're going to look at the provincial rates as an example, you can see how Ontario taxes it for 2026. You get 5% additionally on 53,891. So you can see you have 14% plus that 5% as well. And then if you go down to anything over 220, you get taxed an additional 13.16%. Okay, which when you look at your calculation here, we can use the EY personal tax calculator. For example, let's do 100,000 to calculate. We can see our taxes payable is 20,503, and we can see how our average tax rate is 20.5%, but it's 31%. Remember, this is for 2025, so the EY calculator is not updated for the 2026 numbers. This is just for 2025. But we can see the difference between our average rate and our marginal rate. That means that every dollar that we make over 100,000 will be taxed at 31%, but our average tax rate is at 20.5% at that amount. Okay, if we go up to that 350,000 and we calculate that, we can see that our for BC, our marginal tax rate will be at 53.5%, but our average tax rate is 39%, 38.95%. So you can see on average, we're getting taxed at 38.95%. So we're not getting taxed at 53.5%. That's just our marginal amount. That's for every dollar that is made above 350,000. So you can see that a lot of people get that confused. You know, your average tax rate is 38.95% on average on 350,000. But yes, every dollar above that gets taxed at 53.5%. That doesn't mean, though, that this whole 350,000 gets taxed at 53.5%. And I think that's where the confusion comes with most people when they hear, oh, we get taxed at 53.5% or 50% or whatever percentage, right? That, oh, well, then I barely keep any of my money. I only keep half of this, 175, when in theory we actually keep 213,000. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to this channel for more practical Canadian tax guidance videos. Remember, this is general information and not personalized tax advice.